And welcome everybody to another episode of the NRW Checkpoint. Of course, this is another episode where we talk about the week in gaming. I'm WebsterStyle, and I'm always joined by my man, Brian Sapph. Brian, how are you doing today?
I'm good. How about yourself?
I'm good, man. It's a beautiful day here. It's been nice weather, so hopefully spring will stick and give us a little bit of spring until summer hits in a couple weeks. But right. I'm doing good, man. Now we got hit with I think it was yesterday at the time, as of the time of this recording. Everything was all quiet. Everything was normal. We're talking about the new games coming out, and then bam, Square Enix is like, hey, we want to sell all our Western game companies to the Embracer Group, which is a group that has also bought Gearbox a couple months ago, and I feel like they own some other companies. The company that is doing the Cultural remake, Aspire, they bought them. They own a couple other studios under that. For some reason, I feel like they own part of the THQ stuff, but I may be wrong about that. But anyway, they sold all of their Western studios. So Crystal Dynamics, Eidos Montreal, Square Enix Montreal, which includes Deus Ex, which includes Tomb Raider, which includes Legacy of Kain. Now, I never played let me phrase that. I played Legacy of Kain on PlayStation because friends had it, and I had friends who loved that series, and they're like, they don't understand why it's never come back. I mean, I don't think we've seen a Legacy of Kain game since maybe the PS2 era, if I remember that correctly. I don't know. But that's 1,100 people and a games catalog with over 50 games, and they sold it for just $300 million. Now I'm scratching my head because considering how game publisher sales and studio sales have gone in the past couple of years, that seemed cheap. Considering, I mean, you got Tomb Raider. Tomb Raider has sold 83 million games to date since the original Tomb Raider. You have a franchise that even on a bad year sells games, and you're telling me that these whole collection of studios is only worth $300 million. Not just that, the IPs that go along with them as well. I'm like, that seems really cheap. Embracer seemed like they got a really good deal.
Yeah, what would it sound like to me? I guess the only thing that would, I don't know, determine whether or not the purchase was, I don't know what's the right word, but I guess a good purchase would be like what they choose to do with those IPs moving forward.
Right.
Because like you said, some of these games haven't like had new installments in their series in like quite some time. I can't remember the last Tomb Raider game that came out, but I'm pretty sure it was fairly recent. So yeah, question mark for Tomb Raider, but the rest of those, companies or whatever, and the IPs that go along with them, they are more along the lines of like, classic games.
Right.
I feel like this sale happened because I read up on it a little bit. Apparently there's been like some, I don't know, tension between Square Enix and its Western companies or whatever.
They've been messing up.
Yeah, so they didn't really care to continue to have those companies underneath their umbrella. The 300 million price point, I believe, is low as well. Like, I probably wouldn't have sold it for that much, but there's also been talks that Square Enix is in conversation with PlayStation to be acquired by them. So I'm assuming
this could be lightening the load.
Yeah, I'm assuming they're just streamlining the company or whatever so that when PlayStation comes in with their checkbook, they don't have to spend as much, and the acquisition can happen pretty quickly because they've been doing a lot of remakes. Final Fantasy got a nice remake, or Final Fantasy 7, I should say. 14 is still seeing updates and things. Their servers are going strong. The player base is pretty strong. Right. I don't know. I think ever since January, we've been talking about Square Enix releases like every week almost.
Right. True.
So I believe they are just, lightening their load to further entice PlayStation and Sony to go ahead and drop the bag so they can become officially a part of the team. And I don't know, new games are definitely happening with Square Enix. They're definitely building new games, but I feel like the majority of the reason they want to be under the PlayStation umbrella is to continue to focus on those remakes and continue to get nice to bow tie, by the way. Continue to get those remakes pumping out and just do things in the realm of creation that lends towards an earlier time in gaming.
You know, that makes a lot of sense. And I was right. Embracer Group is THQ Nordic. So they have, a pretty good track record and a lot of good IPs already under their belt. I would have to say, though, I think, and I was reading the article, in this case, I'm looking at the article by Ars Technica. I don't know what happens to those Marvel licenses because, Avengers and then Guardians of the Galaxy, which, Avengers, love it or hate it, is what it is. But Guardians is pretty well received across the board. And, especially hitting Game Pass, it definitely found a player base. And they said they've made money back. Like, it's profitable now. So I'm not sure what happens to those IPs. But I will say just my overall impression of Embracer outside of kind of what's going on with Gearbox, they're all about games,
right?
And they seem like they are a gaming company. I'll put it that way. They actually also own a board game company. I was reading this article from Ars Technica. So I will say this though, and you may be shocked to hear this. I'm actually glad neither Microsoft or Sony or Amazon or Facebook bought them. Or Tencent for that matter. As much of a Microsoft fan that I am, I like those IPs being out there. I like them falling to the hands of a gaming company and not one of these huge tech corporations like, for instance, Amazon, who will really just pump that into Luna and that sort of thing. So I am glad that it's with a group that it's about games and gaming. So I have high hopes for what's to come. And clearly, Square Enix has had a lot of missteps lately, and outside of just Guardians and Avengers, we talk about that Babylon Fall game from Platinum, which is being universally called hot garbage across the world. So outside of Final Fantasy and their endless amounts of remakes, Square Enix has not, and again, I am not saying Avengers is a bad game. It is not the Avengers game most people wanted. Nobody wanted an Avengers game that was a live service game. And that's really what it comes down to. I played it on Game Pass. It is not a game I would purchase because it's not a game that would keep going back to it for the live service stuff. That's just not me. Guardians, I still, as of yet, haven't really gotten into it, but it's, from what I've seen so far, it's a really good game and deserves all the success that's now coming to it. But outside of those, everything else has been a remake of something else or recently. Okay, I think that the Nier Automata series is pretty recent, and they do have Forspoken come out, which you talked about before. It looks pretty sweet, but Square Enix really needs some new IPs, and because Final Fantasy and all alike, while they're great and they're awesome, a lot of game companies are not going to survive just constantly retreading old IPs. Yeah,
and I think a lot of that, like to what you're saying, because we discussed what was it, maybe 2-3 weeks ago, Final Fantasy 4 is on the way and stuff like that. I think what they're trying to do is do something with their company to where they can be more focused on specific games, because we talk about Avengers. I enjoy the game, but it's not something I play on a regular basis. Even though it is live service, I tend to wait around until they release new characters into the game and then, jump back in or whatever. But everything else is more so like I'm waiting on Final Fantasy 4 and Chrono, whatever the game was, the tactical RPG game that they released.
I forgot what it was called. We talked about it a couple weeks ago.
Like they've been focusing on games, but they haven't been very diverse. I'll say it like that.
It's interesting. You speaking of those games of Square Enix reminded me, is like, I'm thinking in my head, it's like they're trying to become a niche publisher instead of a big hitter. And that reminded me, it's like almost like they're trying to be, not on purpose, but trying to be Atlas.
Okay.
because Atlas is such a niche publisher with Tenagami Shinsen and the other RPGs to put out, and of course Persona and the Persona series, which is just a spinoff of Tenagami Senshin, but they are known for that sort of gameplay, those sorts of games. And if it's something different, it's a spinoff of those sort of games. And Square Enix, in my opinion, especially with the sell-off of the Western publishers, is becoming that, because everything they're doing now is Final Fantasy derivative in some way, shape, or form, or they're just mining old IP. And, what's it? I always want to say Dragon Warrior, because that's what it was when it came out here in the West for the first time. But Dragon Quest, that comes out every so often, and that's really, even though Square and Enix merged a long time ago, that's really a result of Enix. So sometimes I don't feel as though that they put the oomph behind it as they do the Final Fantasy big releases when they come out. So that's just my opinion and my assessment of it. But I think they're becoming, they look like, and they may be, outside of what's spoken, but they really looks like they're becoming a sort of niche RPG publisher, when before they used to have, and this is even before the Western studios, they sought to really diversify their portfolio as far as what sort of games they offered. And I think that's sad to a degree if they really become a niche publisher. I've always thought Square puts out some pretty unique games. And if they just become that niche publisher and stick to their wheelhouse, I think a lot of innovation in gaming will be left behind because of it.
I could see that. I wonder, with you saying that, I wonder if this has a lot to do with like Eastern influence, because I think about some of the gaming developers and publishers that come from, like Japan and, Asia and stuff like that.
Yeah.
They are, most of them, they're pretty niche. Like Pokemon Company only focuses on Pokemon. Like there's companies and large developers that are doing things with gaming companies that only focus on specific areas. So I wonder if Square Enix is just trying to be a little bit more niche and just say, you know what, we excel at RPGs, so let's focus on that.
And that could even, because I'm thinking, you talk about Pokemon Company, Game Freak, they're still owned by Nintendo. So you still have that mainline publisher. And that makes me think of what you're saying as far as Square Enix kind of streamlining the company for a potential sale, in this case, a potential sale by Sony. And then by being a part of Sony, they can focus just on what they want to focus on and not worry about anything else as far as the other aspects of the business.
Right. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. As far as the Marvel stuff, though, it's up in the air. I know they'll just probably have to communicate with, Marvel and Disney and apply for all kind of licenses and things like that. But there are other publishers and gaming companies that have Marvel licensing or are putting out Marvel games and stuff. This what is it? Midnight Sun game, I think, is coming out pretty soon. I think that's Insomniac, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, but I think so. I'm not sure. Yeah, I forgot about that game because that was supposed to come out in the spring, then it got pushed back. So I think it's June. Yeah, I haven't heard about it in a long time, so it may not be coming out in June.
Well, they're trying to work out them game mechanics, I believe, because it was looking a little different to me. But
yes,
we'll wait on it and see what happens with it. I don't know. It's just very interesting seeing what's happening. I've been calling for Square Enix to maybe become a part of the Sony team, whatever, but I didn't anticipate them like streamlining like this and getting rid of all of these Western companies that has so many other IPs that could still be utilized. But I don't know. The gaming industry, man, it's tricky to say the least.
Right. I totally agree with you. So speaking of Sony, let's move on to our first release this week, which is a re-release of a game that came out a couple weeks ago for the Sony family. And this is Sifu. And this is is it Sifu or Sifu? I think it's Sifu. Sifu, the Vengeance Edition. And this is just a limited collector's edition. It comes with steelbook, lithographs, the art of Sifu, 48-page art book and digital soundtrack. So it's pretty much they released a collector's edition after the fact. So that's pretty much what that is. Not too much to talk about that.
They also with that Sifu release, I believe they're also adding easy mode in the game as well.
Oh, really? I
Yes,
missed
because
that.
Sifu's
Okay.
been kicking ass. People have been really struggling.
Yes.
They want to beat the game and not have their character be 75 years old or whatever the max age is. So along with that release, I believe they're also incorporating an easy mode into the game so people can, casually play it with more vigor than before.
Okay. All right. Well, that's I'm sure a lot of people will be happy about that.
Yeah.
Next up is Dungeon Defenders Awakened for the PS4. Now, this is similar to what we talked about last week, and I forget the game that we were talking about, but it was finally released on PS4 after being released on the 5 and all the Xboxes and the Switch. We're like, how is this just being released on PS4 like years later? And this is another game. This was released on PC in 2020, and then Xbox One and Switch in 2021. So I'm like, okay, it's a little bit late there, and I doubt. And the thing is, I didn't realize there was so many Dungeon Defender games because I know there's 1 and 2, and only because Microsoft Xbox gave them away.
Okay.
At least 1 was given away. Xbox games would go back in the 360 era. That's the only reason I played it. And I know 2, there's some on Game Pass. I'll put it that way. Okay. So the fact that this is an action RPG tower defense game. So again, it has a very whimsical, cartoonish art style. It's fun to play. It's basic. It's good for all ages. I'm just surprised that, the games that, get all these sequels, like, man, they sell like that. Like, you never know.
Right. I feel like that's probably what happened. They PC did well, Xbox did well, so they're like, you know what, might as well.
Right. The next game on the list is a game called Loot River, and this is on the Xbox One S, X, and the PC. And this we talked about last week. Another roguelike, and this has action and RPG elements. And I actually noticed today when I was on my Xbox, is actually on Game Pass also. So it's another day 1 release on Game Pass. And again, no disrespect to developers, but that pixelated 8-bit art style, all the things we talked about last week as far as we keep seeing in all these games. Again, not saying they aren't fun games, but I'm looking forward when we get that next big breakthrough in gameplay, next big breakthrough in art style, because we see a lot of these indie games kind of quote unquote cashing in on what's been popular the last couple of years. So like I said, I'm not saying it's not a good game. It looks like a fun game from what I've seen of it with the trailers and everything, but I'm afraid that it's more of the same based on what we've seen, especially in the indie gaming scene in the past couple of years.
That makes sense. I don't know. The developers, they really, they trying to get in where they fit in. It's a bunch of cash being thrown around. The kids are joining the gaming scene like via Minecraft and Fortnite and stuff like that. They see opportunities.
Right.
I think that's Loot River.
Right. I feel you. All right. Next up was weird when I saw it on the release list, but it's Overcooked All You Can Eat. Now, if you're not familiar with Overcooked at this point in time, I don't know what's wrong with you. Yeah. But it's being released on Stadia. Yeah. Why?
I guess somebody over there called for it. I don't know.
I mean, it's been literally released on everything else between 2020 and 2021.
Right.
Why? That baffles me.
Cash grab? Can we call it?
It's Stadia. What cash grab?
I don't know.
I think they just did it just because let's be frank. Google's not pumping out money to publishers to put their games on Stadia like that. They have pretty much said that we aren't focused on Stadia like we were. So I think the publishers and the developers, they did it out of kindness to their hearts to put it on the service. That's what I think. Well, I would put it on there for those 10 people that's still on Stadia. And all you Stadia players, don't come up in the comments because it ain't many of y'all. So
right. That's not our fault. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Do what they needed to do with their product. And
Stadia was half baked from the beginning.
It was.
And we all knew it was half baked from the beginning.
Right.
But then you didn't. you didn't put in any of the promises that you said you were going to that made it even halfway compelling.
This is always my issue with Google and Android and anything that they try to do. It's like big promises, you know what I'm saying? Cool ideas, fall through is always a thing with you guys. You don't show up the way you said you're supposed to, which, you know, I don't have to buy it, so it is what it is. But Overcooked is ridiculously popular. It's a very, very fun game. And I could see, you know, just to give them a little bit of grace here, I could see the 7 or 8 people that still play Stadia on a daily basis saying, oh, you know what? Overcooked is fun. Let me jump on here, whatever, something to pass the time. But they probably would have did better putting this in the Play Store and letting people just play it on their phones.
I agree. But this is the thing, Brian. Anybody who has Stadia, look, you probably have 1% of 1% of those who use Stadia who only use Stadia. With that being said, they could play this game on any other system besides Stadia, and they had the opportunity to. So it's like, why? You have 1% of 1% that has probably never played this game because they don't do anything but Stadia.
Unless something is about to happen with Stadia that we're not aware of yet. That's the only other reason I can see this being a thing.
Brian, this is Google we're talking
Stadia
about.
Stadia 2 coming out.
This is Google we're talking about here. Let's get real. Look, we lucky we still got Gmail.
Right. Which Gmail is probably the thing with Google that's like maintaining there. Because, well, never mind. Because don't they own YouTube as well?
Well, they do, but I'm just saying as far as their products they created, because remember, they bought YouTube.
Right.
But the products they created, a lot of them have gone the way of the dodo over the years. All right, let's stop bashing Stadia. Let's get on to something good. So next up,
Overcooked is a fun game.
Yes, it is. It is.
Shout out to Overcooked making it over to Stadia.
I always say it's like burger time for the new millennium. That's what it reminds me of.
Makes sense.
So, all right. So next up is the game I'm excited about this week, and that is Trek to Yomi, and that is on the PS4 and 5, Xbox One, all that stuff, and PC. It's an action game, and it looks like an Akira Kurosawa film come to life. Seven Samurai. Oh, it's in black and white. You see, it looks so beautiful, and it's coming to Game Pass day one. So I would be playing this bad boy. I cannot wait. And we are looking at the trailer for that one. So you'll see, if you have not seen Trek to Yomi and understand why I'm excited about it and why it looks so beautiful, you will find out very, very shortly. But you cannot go wrong with swords, samurai, blood.
Right. Because what was the other game? I'm still I can't think of it, but it'll come to me later. Definitely.
What system was it on?
All of them. It's the big one that maybe 2 years ago won all the awards and stuff.
Oh, talking about Ghost of Tsushima?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes,
all right.
yes.
Yeah.
You can't go wrong
with
those kind of games. I need to finish that game actually, but it's pretty good. I like stuff like this.
Got you. All right. Next up, we have a multi-platform, and this is a Wildcat Gun Machine. Already sounds like an interesting title, and that's on PlayStation 4, Xbox One, Switch, and PC. And it is a bullet hell action game. Again, what's not to like about that?
You shooting people.
Right. Exactly. Right. Now, next one, and this is probably the most interesting game on the list as far as story premise is concerned, and that is Best Month Ever. And it's interesting because when I was originally looking this up for this week, I totally forgot about this game because I heard about it a while ago. And I'm sorry, this is going to be on the PlayStation family systems and the Xbox One S and X, and this is an adventure game where basically you have, and I forget if you're a mom or a dad, I feel like you're a mom, but you have a month to live. And it's like the summer of 1969. And you have like a month to teach your son what it is to be a man. So they're like, you get in bar fights and all types of other things. It looks really interesting. We're watching a trailer for it a little bit later in the show.
Really?
So yeah, it's the premise by itself just sounds interesting. And I think we talked before, a lot of these indie games, the story is really what compels somebody to play because they can offer these very unique experiences based on the stories. And you wouldn't necessarily see this in from a larger studio AAA, going back to Square Enix. You know, they surprisingly produced the Life is Strange series, which is done really well.
Right.
So you have a big time publisher, you know, really going for story driven games, but you don't see them being as quirky as this overall. Sometimes you see it and it works like Life is Strange, and other times you see it and they get lost in the mix of all the AAA titles. So I'm interested definitely in this one when it comes out. Next up is Rifftrax, the game, and this is a party game. And Rifftrax, if I remember correctly, they're kind of like Mystery Science Theater 3000, where they have like funny soundtracks and whatnot to horrible movies. I think that's what it is. Okay. So it's a party game based on that. So if you like that sort of thing, it's definitely up your alley. Next up is Warhammer 4000. You know, I'm always surprised at how popular Warhammer 40,000 is. I've never been into the games, whether it's been the I guess you consider them board games with the figures and whatnot, nor the video games.
Yeah.
But the license is clearly popular as they continue to make games. And this is a Chaos Gate Daemonhunter, and this is a strategy RPG, and it's PC only. I don't know what I need to look it up. I feel like this is coming to PC Game Pass as well. I remember it before I looked it up today. I remember advertisements for it or something like that. So I got to look that up. And then last on the list is Crowns and Pawns Kingdom of Deceit. And this is a point and click adventure on the PC.
Interesting. Yes. What is Crowns and Pawns? What is this,
I don't know. It look. I really know. I saw brief pictures of it when I was looking it up for the show, and it didn't strike my interest to look any further. I'll put it that way.
That's fine.
That's me, though. I'm not saying, you know, to our viewers out there, maybe something you want to look into, but for me, I didn't want to see any more about the game. I'm like, okay, that's what it is.
Yeah, if you're a PC player and you're interested in Crowns and or Pawns, this might be the one for you.
Right. Exactly. Now, let's get into some trailers. Our first trailer for today is Trek to Yomi. Straight up with like 7 man.
Now see, it's based on the trailer. I watched this trailer before.
Man, look at the water.
Yeah, the detail here. It's giving me like a vibe of Sifu and Ghost of Tsushima. Gameplay, side scroller, but that's still dope in a lot of aspects. These scenes right here, amazing.
Every time I see this game, I just goosebumps. It looks so good.
Yeah.
I love the art style. I love not just that the fact is black and white, but how they use shading and lights in the environment. I mean, especially going back to the water physics, like, you know, that's black and white and grayscale, but you see the water physics, how it splashes. It's just amazing. And again, we talked about Devolver Digital publishing games before and really publishing games, those indie games that are very story driven. And here you have another example here of them just taking something that looks absolutely magnificent and making sure it gets out to the world.
Yeah. And I think
that.
Yeah, definitely.
Does look good. And to your what you were saying, I think because they don't have to focus on color and cell shading and stuff, they got this, you know, grayscale, black and white kind of noir feel to it or whatever.
Right.
They can really focus on making sure the environment looks great. The graphics in this game, they stand out like 10 times as much if this probably was a color game, just because they don't have to focus on those specific things that you have to do with color and shading to make something like water look the way it does when it flows. So I'm excited for it.
Yeah, it also sets a great mood as well. So I'm excited. I will be I will definitely play more of that when it drops on Thursday on Game Pass. That may be part of my weekend.
Which is fine, you know.
Yeah.
That's fine. New games always a good way to pass time.
Right, exactly.
You gotta do something while you wait for Doctor Strange.
Oh yeah, definitely.
which I've been hearing so many great things about this. I'm so excited for Doctor Strange, but that's another topic.
Yeah, another topic for another day. Right. Next up, we have the bullet hell shooter, which is oddly enough named Wildcat Gun Machine.
Let's see.
In a godless, unforgiving world.
Oh, okay.
There must be
another one of these like quirky
who calls for
right.
Demands justice.
Yeah, another one of these quirky like indie games.
One soul who stands up and declares, "We're gonna need a bigger gun." Rain hellfire upon hordes of gruesome flesh beasts as you blast through a million.
Flesh beast, watch out now.
Wildcat
What's
gun
up with
machine.
these cats?
Strap yourself in for brutal bullet hell combat as you face bigger, badder, more revolting enemies with each step. Mother of God. You want guns? We got over 40 guns. When that's not enough,
A big blob
and
look like Tetsuo from Akira.
Right.
You become the gun.
Oh my goodness. Oh, okay.
Oh, you working shop now.
Right. Nah, this looks like something fun to like really just have the time.
Oh, it does. And I'm glad it's on the Switch because again, this is definitely something that's good on handheld.
Right. See, I don't mind games like that. I like that because that's something I wouldn't expect. The premise seems to be pretty cool. Like, I don't know. I like little quirky games like that.
Right. No, I agree.
Cats in the video.
I love it when, and I know we talked about trailers for some games previous in the past.
Mm-hmm.
That were like they had fun with the trailer just to make something whimsical and lighthearted,
right?
And not take the game too seriously because again, it's called Wildcat Gun Machine, and you're doing all what you're doing as far as shooting everything. You can't take yourself too seriously. So I love it when developers and publishers have fun with these games, and you really get that love for the game from the publisher in these independent studios as a consumer and a gamer, and I love that.
Me too. This is really really something to take your mind away from the fact that Square Enix is selling everything in their repertoire. But no, yeah, cool games like that, those tend to be very, very enjoyable.
Right. And the last trailer we have today is Best month ever.
It might be Beth. You never
might be Beth. I don't know what the main character's name is.
Imagine having only a month left to live. I don't want to imagine that. 1969. Courage, confidence. Okay. Wow.
Mitch, I promise you, this will be the best month ever.
This is how you teach your child how to become a man.
It looks wacky and zany, and I like that.
Right.
And you only have a month to live. I can even fathom that.
Joy, distress, heartbreak.
My dad, your grandfather, would take me here.
Fish.
He promised to teach me how to fish, but one day he just didn't come home to work.
Damn.
Right.
I'm Louise Connor's son.
Burlesque, huh?
Now, wait a minute. Was that her doing burlesque?
I don't know. You should ask him.
I see it more so. I can see her taking him to a burlesque show.
Right.
I mean, yeah, she took him on a high-speed chase.
Oh, yeah, true. She's shooting at the cops.
One chance.
Mom, wake up! Mom!
Damn.
Mama's gone, Billy. Mama's gone.
Yeah, so she's gonna die at the end of the game.
Well, you only got a month, so
right.
I don't know if I had a month to live there. Well, I probably won't be as mild mannered as people think I am. I'll put it that way. It's like I'm going. I'm letting it all hang out.
If we going. Like fuck it. Let's go ahead. You know, Grand Theft Auto in real life.
Well,
and it better not be February either. I want the longest month left.
Exactly. That looks interesting. You know, that's one of those games. It has that quirky style, but it looks like it can go into a whole lot of different directions.
Right.
As far as the story is concerned, it definitely and it doesn't look like Lake that we covered last week before, where you know you're meeting everybody, but you're delivering the mail.
Right.
It's all somber and genteel. This looks like it's 1969. Just the Wild Wild West out here. We got Woodstock. We got marijuana. We got LSD. We getting chased by the cops.
Right.
Free love, everybody.
Can we go to the moon on this game? What?
I guess it depends on what year it is. I mean, what month it is.
Yes, you're right.
So
hopefully it's the best month.
Yes. All right, so that's the last of our trailers. Brian, what do you have coming up this week?
You guys know. Oh, I did it wrong again this time. This is my podcast. We're doing another, just a regular episode. Some things to talk about, gaming news, mostly focusing on TV. You know, this week is the series or season finale. I don't know what the fuck they're gonna do with Moon Knight. Season 2, not likely, but
I don't think so either.
Yeah,
I'm looking forward to
last
that. Last
episode, Moon Knight, and I'm excited. Some music has been dropping lately that I've been tuning into, so we're just gonna get into everything that I normally talk about, and then I'm here with you.
Got you.
That's Monday, I believe, or whatever day it comes out.
Right. So with me, episode 108 of the Sartorial Geek podcast will be out by the time this publishes. This week we are talking about HBCU Con. I went to that this past weekend and had a blast. Also talking about Trek to Yomi. Also talking about, goodness, a whole lot of stuff. I'm going to be talking a lot of Star Trek. I decided to skip episode 9 of Picard last week to watch 9 and 10 together because Picard has been just pissing me off as a fan the whole season. I tried to give it a chance from last season. This season is, so I'm like, let me wait until 10 comes out so I can give like a whole outlook. But on the flip side of that, Strange New Worlds comes out this week, so I'm excited for that. Halo, Moon Knight, it's going to be a lot of Sartorial Geek podcast this week. So when it drops on Friday or Saturday, I still got to record. But so find it there, find it on your podcasting platforms. But more importantly, you're going to find all things WebsterStyle, the man, the voice of fragrance, at WebsterStyle.com. Sartorial Geek podcast, product reviews. I got some new product reviews out there as well. And of course, if you don't find this on YouTube, you'll find it on Sartorial Geek as well. But you're not on WebsterStyle or Talk+Play blerdcast. You are currently with Nerds Rule the World. And of course, you're on YouTube, so make sure you like, share, and subscribe this one. Don't forget to find us on our social medias at the NRW on Twitter, at Nerds Rule the World on Instagram. And of course, like I said before, make sure you like, share, subscribe, and click that notification bell, because if you haven't realized it by now, there's a whole lot of content coming out from us.
Right. And this is the best YouTube ever. So
that's the truth.
Hit the bell.
Ding ding.
All right.